The bustling studio lights of Good Morning America flickered to life on a crisp October morning in 2025, casting a warm glow over the familiar set where co-hosts Michael Strahan, Robin Roberts, and George Stephanopoulos prepared to welcome their high-profile guest. Denzel Washington, the two-time Academy Award-winning actor known for his commanding presence in films like Training Day and Fences, strode onto the stage with the effortless charisma that had captivated audiences for decades. At 70 years old, Denzel remained a towering figure in Hollywood. His latest project, a gritty biographical drama titled Echoes of Justice, about civil rights icon Thurgood Marshall, poised to reignite conversations on race, power, and accountability in America. The audience buzzed with anticipation as the theme music swelled, and Michael Strahan, the former NFL star turned beloved morning show anchor, flashed his trademark megawatt smile, extending a firm handshake to Denzel. "Denzel, it's an absolute honor to have you here, brother," Strahan boomed, his voice echoing with genuine enthusiasm laced with the athletic bravado that made him a fan favorite. Denzel nodded graciously, settling into the plush interview chair, his eyes sharp and assessing, as if already sensing the undercurrents of the conversation ahead. Robin chimed in with a light-hearted opener about Denzel's enduring legacy, drawing chuckles from the live crowd, while George leaned forward, ready to pivot into the meatier topics. The segment kicked off smoothly, with clips from Echoes of Justice rolling on the massive screen behind them, stirring scenes of courtroom battles and quiet moments of reflection that showcased Denzel's nuanced portrayal of Marshall's unyielding fight against injustice. As the applause died down, Strahan leaned in, his tone shifting to one of playful probing. "Denzel, you've always been the voice of truth in your roles. But off-screen, how do you handle when the system's stacked against you? Like, say, in today's divided world?" It was a standard question, but Denzel's response carried weight, his deep baritone filling the studio. "Michael, truth isn't handed out, it's wrestled from the jaws of denial." Marshall didn't wait for permission to speak, he demanded it. The exchange flowed like a well-rehearsed dance at first, the hosts nodding appreciatively, the control room humming with satisfaction. Yet, beneath the surface polish, a subtle tension simmered, rooted in recent headlines that had dogged Strahan. Just weeks prior, during a Fox NFL Sunday broadcast, Strahan had stood for the national anthem but omitted the hand-over-heart gesture, a choice that ignited a firestorm of social media backlash accusing him of disrespect. Apologies followed, but the wound lingered, whispered about in industry circles as a chink in his armor. Denzel, ever the keen observer of human frailty, had no doubt caught wind of it through his vast network of friends in entertainment and sports. As the interview progressed, Strahan attempted to steer back to safer waters, praising Denzel's directorial chops in his son Malcolm's film collaborations, but the actor's gaze held a glint of something sharper, like a blade being whetted for the strike. The audience, oblivious to the brewing storm, clapped politely after each soundbite, while producers in the booth exchanged glances, sensing the air thicken. It was the kind of moment that morning television thrived on, polished yet precarious, where one wrong word could unravel the facade. Denzel adjusted his tie, a subtle gesture of composure, and waited for the next volley, knowing full well that authenticity, his lifelong creed, wouldn't allow him to sidestep the elephant in the room. The clock ticked onward, the segment midway through its allotted 10 minutes, and with it, the inexorable pull toward confrontation. Strahan, sensing the lull, decided to inject some levity, referencing a viral clip from Denzel's past interviews where he'd roasted a host for interrupting him. "Denzel, you're famous for keeping it real, none of that scripted fluff. So, tell us, what's the wildest thing you've seen on a set that rivals real-life drama?" Laughter rippled through the studio, but Denzel's smile was tight, his response measured. "Real life. That's where the masks come off, Michael. And sometimes, folks forget to put their hand where their heart is." The line landed like a quiet thunderclap, the double entendre hanging heavy, directly alluding to Strahan's anthem controversy without naming it outright. The co-hosts froze for a split second, Robin's eyes widening imperceptibly, while George's neutral expression masked his surprise. Strahan's laugh came a beat too late, forced and booming, as he clapped Denzel on the shoulder. "Touché, man, you got me there." But the damage was done, the gauntlet thrown, the air electric with unspoken challenge. Denzel leaned back, arms crossed, his posture a fortress of unyielding integrity, daring the conversation to deepen or devolve. The audience murmured, sensing the shift from banter to brinkmanship, their phones already itching to capture the unfolding drama. In that suspended moment, the essence of live television crystallized, raw, unpredictable, a mirror to society's fractures. As the director cued the next question, the stage was set for escalation, Denzel's moral compass pointing unerringly toward accountability, no matter the cost to the show's harmonious veneer. Michael Strahan's face, usually a beacon of unshakable confidence honed from Super Bowl triumphs and sideline charisma, betrayed a flicker of unease as Denzel Washington's pointed remark echoed in the studio. The former New York Giants legend, now a fixture on GMA's couch since 2016, had built his post-football empire on relatability and resilience, turning gridiron grit into golden hour charm. Yet here, under the unforgiving glare of network cameras, he felt the weight of national scrutiny pressing down anew. The anthem incident, a mere gesture omitted in a moment of broadcast chaos, resurrected like a specter at dawn. Strahan recovered swiftly, his broadcaster's instincts kicking in as he pivoted with practiced ease. "All right, Denzel, you hit hard right out the gate. But let's talk about echoes of justice, that scene where Marshall calls out hypocrisy in the courtroom. Chills, man, how'd you channel that fire?" The deflection was smooth, the praise effusive, but Denzel's eyes narrowed, his response laced with the gravitas of a man who'd portrayed kings, generals, and prophets. "Fire. It's not channeled, Michael, it's lived. Hypocrisy isn't a script, it's what happens when public figures salute the flag with words but fumble the follow-through." The studio fell into a hushed tension, the live audience leaning forward in their seats, whispers rippling like wind through dry grass. Robin Roberts, ever the diplomat with her survivor's poise, interjected gently, "Denzel, you've spoken so powerfully about faith and forgiveness in your work. Does Marshall's story offer hope amid all this division?" Her question was a lifeline, tossed to bridge the growing chasm, and Denzel seized it thoughtfully, expounding on redemption's arduous path with anecdotes from his own life, mentoring at-risk youth in Mount Vernon, confronting personal demons in the quiet hours. For a moment, the storm clouds parted, the interview reclaiming its inspirational bent, George's follow-up probing Denzel's views on mentoring the next generation of black filmmakers, drawing nods from the crew. But Strahan, sensing vulnerability in the pause, couldn't resist circling back, his competitive streak flaring like a quarterback eyeing a blitz. "Denzel, respect, total respect for that. But hey, we've all had moments where the spotlight burns too hot. Like when I stood tall for the anthem, heart in it, even if my hand wasn't on display. Folks online twisted it, but integrity's what counts, right?" It was a bold reclamation, Strahan's voice rising with the fervor of a post-game presser, his broad shoulders squared as if facing down a defensive line. The audience applauded tentatively, divided between loyalty to the home team host and admiration for the guest's unflinching candor. Denzel paused, his fingers steepled, the silence stretching taut as a bowstring. When he spoke, his tone was velvet over steel. "Integrity, Michael. That's the coin of the realm. But when you're in the arena, on the field, in the studio, you owe it to the game, to the people watching, to show every play with full commitment. Half measures, they don't score points, they just leave scars." The words landed with precision, a surgical strike that peeled back Strahan's defenses, exposing the raw nerve of public apology and private doubt. Gasps dotted the crowd, phones now fully aloft, capturing the exchange in fragmented bursts destined for viral eternity. In the control booth, producers scrambled, cut to commercial. Let it ride, as the segment's clock bled precious seconds. George's attempt to redirect to lighter fare, querying Denzel's workout regimen for the role, fell flat against the charged atmosphere, Denzel's polite demurral underscoring the rift. Strahan's jaw tightened, his smile a mask cracking at the edges, the man who'd sacked quarterbacks now sacked by scrutiny. "Denzel, I hear you, loud and clear. But life's not always black and white, sometimes it's the gray areas that make us human." It was a plea wrapped in philosophy, Strahan's eyes locking onto Denzel's with the intensity of a teammate seeking absolution. The actor held the gaze, unblinking, his response a masterclass in measured rebuke. "Gray areas, sure. But when the anthem plays, the heart stands clear, or it doesn't. Marshall taught us that, and legends like you, they rise by owning the full field, not just the highlights." The studio erupted in a mix of cheers and uneasy laughter, the divide palpable, as if the nation's polarized pulse had invaded the set. Denzel's words, born of decades navigating fame's treacherous waters, resonated beyond the immediate fray, a clarion call for authenticity in an era of performative piety. Strahan nodded slowly, absorbing the hit, his retort forming on the tip of his tongue. "Appreciate the lesson, coach. But next play's mine." The banter's edge sharpened further, the interview teetering on the precipice of spectacle, every syllable a step closer to the inevitable rupture. As the director signaled wrap up, the undercurrents surged, promising that this dawn dialogue would echo far beyond the closing credits. The heart of the confrontation pulsed with the raw authenticity that Denzel Washington had long embodied, his career a tapestry woven from roles that demanded unflinching truth, Malcolm X's fiery oratory, Reuben, Hurricane, Carter's defiant spirit, each performance a mirror to society's soul-searching. Here, on GMA's gleaming stage, that same intensity crackled, transforming a promotional spot into a public reckoning. Strahan, undeterred by the verbal joust, pressed on with the tenacity of a lineman breaking through the line, his next question a calculated counterpunch. Denzel, you've mentored so many, your sons in the industry, young actors hungry for a shot. What's the one piece of advice you'd give someone like me, navigating these controversies, keeping the faith? When the crowd turns, it was shrewd, framing himself as the eager pupil, inviting wisdom while subtly soliciting sympathy. The audience leaned in, sensing the pivot from clash to camaraderie, their collective breath held in suspense. Denzel's expression softened fractionally, a paternal glint in his eye, but his words carried the weight of lived sermons. Advice. Simple. Lead with your heart, not your highlights reel. When the anthem swells, or the camera rolls, show the full measure of your conviction. Half-hearted stands. They echo hollow. Michael, leave folks questioning not just the gesture, but the man behind it. The specificity stung, Strahan's recent mea culpa video flashing and spoken in the air, his Instagram plea for understanding now recast as insufficient under Denzel's moral microscope. Robin interceded once more, her voice a soothing balm, such profound insight. Denzel, in Echoes of Justice, Marshall's victories came from bridging divides, how can we apply that today? The question bought breathing room, and Denzel obliged, delving into the film's themes of reconciliation, sharing a backstage story of reconciling with a long-estranged colleague during production, his narrative rich with vulnerability and victory. Laughter followed as he mimicked the awkward reunion, lightening the load, George's chuckle genuine as he segued to Denzel's Broadway roots. But Strahan, ever the competitor, couldn't let the moment pass unchallenged, his retort bubbling up like steam from a pressure cooker. Heart over highlights, got it. But Denzel, you've had your share of heat, right? Remember that time critics tore into The Book of Eli for its faith angle? You didn't storm off then, you doubled down. It was a jab, clever in its reciprocity, equating artistic critique to patriotic scrutiny, the audience murmuring approval at the host's pushback. Denzel's laugh was low and resonant, disarming yet dominant. Heat. I thrive in it, Michael. But that's the difference, my stands are scripted in soul, not sidelined by spectacle. When you fumble the form on something sacred like the flag, it's not critics, it's the country calling foul. The exchange escalated, voices rising in harmonious discord, Strahan gesturing animatedly as if diagramming a play. Foul called. Come on, it was a broadcast blip, hand or no hand, my respects ironclad. Denzel's rebuttal was swift, his finger pointing not in accusation but emphasis, ironclad. Then why the apology tour? Marshall didn't explain, he exemplified. Own the field fully, or step aside for those who will. The studio vibrated with the verbal volley, co-hosts exchanging wide-eyed glances, the live feed capturing every micro-expression for posterity. In the booth, executives debated muting mics, but the rawness was ratings gold, a glimpse behind the curtain of celebrity candor. Strahan's face flushed, a rare crack in his composure, his response a mix of defiance and deference, stepping aside. Nah, I'm suited up for the long haul. But lesson learned, next anthem, hand high. Denzel nodded, a concession wrapped in challenge, that's the play. Make it count. The tension crested then ebbed, the audience erupting in applause that bridged the gap, phones buzzing with clips already trending under hashtag Denzel v Strahan. Yet beneath the cheers, the seeds of fracture took root, Denzel's unyielding ethos clashing against Strahan's adaptive charm, a microcosm of America's own ideological gridlock. As the segment barreled toward its close, the air hummed with unresolved energy, George's wrap-up question on Denzel's future projects feeling like a hasty exit ramp. Denzel answered graciously, plugging Echoes of Justice, with infectious zeal, but his body language, shoulders squared, gaze averted, hinted at the gathering storm. Strahan extended his hand for a closing clasp, the gesture laden with subtext, Denzel's grip firm but fleeting. In that handshake lingered the unspoken, respect earned in the fire of frankness, but boundaries breached in the blaze. The commercial break loomed, but the real drama was just igniting, the morning's light exposing shadows long hidden in the glow of scripted smiles. As the interview barreled into its final act, The studio's atmosphere thickened like humidity before a downpour, every exchanged glance and pregnant pause amplifying the standoff between Denzel Washington and Michael Strahan. Denzel, the elder statesman of screen and stage, sat with the poise of a chess grandmaster, his moves deliberate, each word a pawn advanced toward checkmate. Strahan, meanwhile, embodied the scrappy underdog, his athletic heritage fueling a refusal to yield, his broad frame leaning forward as if charging for a fourth-quarter comeback. The co-hosts, Robin and George, navigated the minefield with diplomatic finesse, Robin tossing softballs about Denzel's family life, George probing policy parallels in the film, buying time as the control room clock ticked mercilessly. But the elephant, that anthem oversight turned cultural lightning rod, refused to be ignored, its trunk curling around every segue. Denzel, sensing the evasion, struck again with surgical precision during a lull on set anecdotes. Michael, you talk family, legacy, what's yours teaching the next generation about standing tall? Not just in games, but in anthems, oaths. The question sliced clean, tying Strahan's fatherhood to his public persona, the audience gasping softly at the intimacy of the prod. Strahan's eyes flashed, a mix of hurt and hustle, his reply tumbling out with earnest urgency. My girls, they see a dad who stands, every day, every play. That Fox moment, a split-second slip, not a statement. I owned it, apologized because accountability's my MVP. It was heartfelt, Strahan's voice cracking just enough to humanize the host, drawing empathetic nods from sections of the crowd who'd weathered their own public stumbles. Denzel listened, head tilted, his silence more eloquent than soliloquy, before countering with the wisdom of scars earned in spotlight wars. Accountability's the game changer, yes. But slips in sacred spaces. They scar deeper, echo louder. Marshall faced lynch mobs for less, hand over heart was his shield, his sword. What's yours, when the nation's watching? The rhetoric soared, Denzel's cadence rhythmic as a preacher's sermon, invoking history's ghosts to haunt the present, the studio transfixed as if in a revival tent. Applause swelled, thunderous and torn, some cheering the actor's eloquence, others rooting for the host's humility. Strahan, cornered but unbowed, fired back with a personal volley, my sword. It's in the stories I tell here, uplifting folks like you do on screen. We both fight the good fight, maybe our styles clash, but the hearts aligned. It was a noble parry, framing their duel as dialectical dance, not destruction, and for a heartbeat, harmony hovered. Robin seized the olive branch, gushing over shared themes of resilience, while George quipped about a dream crossover film starring the duo as unlikely allies. Laughter cascaded, a brief deluge quenching the drought, Denzel's chuckle genuine as he bantered about Strahan's on-field ferocity translating to villain roles. Yet the respite was illusory, the undercurrent surging anew when Strahan, emboldened, circled to Denzel's own controversies, whispers of method acting excesses, tabloid tales of temper. Denzel, you've stormed sets, called out directors. Ever regret a heated exit? The trap snapped shut, baited with hypocrisy's hook, the audience holding collective breath. Denzel's response was a thunderclap, regret. Only the silence when truth demanded roar. But exits, they're earned when respect's revoked, when hosts prod personal pains under pretense of promo. The accusation hung, direct as daylight, pinning Strahan's probing as performative, the studio erupting in a cacophony of reactions, cheers, boos, bewildered murmurs. Strahan's composure fractured, his voice rising in defense, personal pains. This is dialogue, Denzel, raw, real TV. You can't drop truth bombs then duck the debris. The shouting match ignited, words flying like fumbled passes, Denzel's baritone booming over Strahan's bass, the co-host's pleas for pause lost in the fray. Truth without teeth is tepid, yours bit back because it bled true. Denzel retorted, rising halfway from his seat, his presence dominating the frame. Strahan matched the energy, gesturing wildly, bleed. I've bled on fields and feeds, don't lecture me on truth from your ivory tower. The vitriol peaked, raw and riveting, the L.